Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy, Sports and Fitness Rants? I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know what to do on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, guys. And we're going to set the record straight in this video on Kendrick Perkins and another stupid take from Kendrick Perkins, who does not know anything about basketball. This dude, I saw this clip of Kendrick Perkins saying that Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer in NBA's history. The greatest scorer of all time, Kevin Durant. What? Kevin Durant, the greatest scorer of all time? Once again, not even close, man. Not even close, Kendrick Perkins. And once again, I have no problem with the opinions of these guys. But when they explain their opinions, this is where you sound stupid and you expose yourself. These guys cannot explain it. If you can't explain your opinion and back it up with facts and evidence, then your opinion is not valid. It's not valid. And we're going to talk about this video because Kevin Durant is not the greatest scorer of all time in NBA's history, guys. I don't even know where we're getting these takes from. And we're going to talk about this video, guys. I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly, truly humbled, man. Much respect to everybody in the membership. Like I said, thank you very much, guys. It's truly humbling, man. You guys subscribing, commenting, liking the videos, emailing me, sending me stuff, man. Thank you very much, guys. Like I said, it helps me out a lot, man. So much respect, guys. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I wanted to set the record straight on Kendrick Perkins once again, guys. You know the deal on this channel, man. We must continue to hold the standard here. And Kendrick Perkins, I saw this clip. I think it was on the All the Smoke or Up in Smoke. I don't know what it's called, man. It's with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. They have their podcast or whatever. And he was on there talking, and I don't even, like I said, once again, I don't even know why they have these guys on these shows, man. How does Kendrick Perkins have any credibility? Like, it wasn't like Kendrick Perkins was a great player, and you respect him because he was just really great player, and you want to have him on your show. And how is he getting all this money on ESPN? How is he being asked to come on people's podcasts? Why is he being interviewed? Why do people care to hear his opinion and thoughts on things? I'm baffled by this. Kendrick Perkins was a mediocre player at best, right? He was just a big goof out there. And his analyst, as an analyst, he's been even worse. I told you, this guy said on ESPN, guys, I'm not lying about this. On ESPN, that year, 2022 season, right, when LeBron James told us to keep that same energy, when they had Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis and Rajon Rondo, Kendrick Perkins, before the season started, came on ESPN First Take, guys. I was watching this, and he said with a straight face that the Lakers were going to win 70 games that year. He said they're going to win 70 games. That was his prediction for the preseason prediction. 70 games. Do you guys remember how many games they actually won? I think they won 35. He said they were going to win 70. That was his expert analysis on the Lakers. So once again, who listens to Kendrick Perkins? This guy has no educational views. Not one time that I hear him speak and I'm like, oh, that made sense. This guy's a straight goof and a clown, man. And once again, I said, how is he getting paid all this money to talk about basketball? I clearly know more than Kendrick Perkins does. I've never played in the league, never claimed to play in the league. And I clearly know more about the game itself. And I obviously know more about the history of the game than Kendrick Perkins does. He don't know anything about the history of the game. You think he was watching basketball in the 80s and the 90s? No, he wasn't. No, he was not. So this guy says, with a straight face, that Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer of all time. And like I said, I have no problem with people's opinions. If it's your opinion that Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer of all time, that's fine, man. Have your opinion. But what I always tell you guys, you must be able to explain it. You must be able to bring evidence and support your opinion with the facts. Give us facts as to how or why Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer of all time. You must have evidence to back that statement up. And of course, Kendrick Perkins couldn't back that statement up. He even said, I know you guys are probably not going to agree with me when I say this, but Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer of all time, in my opinion. And Steven Jackson said that he thinks that Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are greater than Kevin Durant. That's what he said. But when Kendrick Perkins tried to break down the game of Kevin Durant, his offensive game, and the reasons why he's the greatest scorer of all time, he sounded ridiculous, man. This dude started going off on Yeah, man. Kevin Durant got all the moves. What can he do? He could pull up from three. He got the hezzy jumper. He's got the pull-up. He's got the crossover. He's got the one-legged. I'm like, what? He's like, he can finish at the rim. And I'm listening to him say all this stuff. And as he's speaking, I'm like, okay, so basically what you're saying, Kendrick Perkins, is that Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer of all time because he has a bunch of different moves that he can go to and a bunch of different ways to score. Okay, so what you're saying is Kevin Durant's a well-rounded scorer. All right, Kevin Durant's one of the great scorers in NBA's history. This video is not to say that Kevin Durant is not one of the great scorers in NBA's history. But when you make a statement that Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer in NBA's history, you must back it up with evidence to support that claim. If he would have said that I think that Kevin Durant is a top 5 scorer in NBA's history, okay, we can maybe argue that and go through that and debate it and go down a list here. But to me, Kevin Durant's not the greatest scorer of all time. And I would not even put him as a top 3 scorer of all time. I would not put him there, guys. And I'm going to explain to you guys right now. We're going to break it down right now. When Kendrick Perkins talks about all those different ways that Kevin Durant, he could pull it from 3, he has the one-legged fall away. He could finish at the rim. He this and that. He could the hezzy pull up and the crossover. When he talks about all these things, what he's failing to mention or realize is that he's doing these things in the weakest, softest era in NBA's history. So once again, he's also doing this in the era that they don't officiate the game the right way. The officiating standards have been lowered. So Kevin Durant can carry the ball. He could travel and manipulate the ball all he wants. Kevin Durant's allowed to get away with a lot of these things. Also, Kevin Durant's playing in a weak era where there's no physicality, so his skinny, frail body is not getting tested and challenged by other real grown men in the 80s or the 90s, even the early 2000s, man. So these are some of the things that we must highlight and understand. And why am I bringing this up? If you guys remember the playoffs, I believe was it the 2022 playoffs, I want to say, when Kevin Durant was on the Brooklyn Nets and they played the Boston Celtics in the first round. Do you guys remember what the Boston Celtics did to Kevin Durant in that series? And why were they able to be so effective against Kevin Durant? If you remember, if you watched that series, what do you remember? The physicality that the Celtics were allowed to play with in that series. You guys remember, the announcers were saying, man, the Celtics are playing 90s style basketball. They're allowed to play old school type basketball. They were allowed to use a level of physicality that we haven't seen since the early 2000s. They were allowed to play that way against Kevin Durant in that series. It was a physical series. And Kevin Durant was averaging 5 turnovers a game. The man could barely dribble the ball up the court. So, all these skills that Kendrick Perkins talked about, that he was trying to highlight, that made Kevin Durant the best scorer of all time, the great scorer of all time because he's so skilled, were negated in that series. Turn the ball over at a high volume. Not being efficient, right? There's another word that Kendrick Perkins used. We're going to talk about, or we're going to break that down also. Where was all those skills and all that scoring against the Boston Celtics and their physical defense? It was negated. It was negated, guys. And that's why I always tell you guys, your skills are going to be negated somewhat to a degree, not completely zeroed out. You're not going to hold Kevin Durant to 0 points or 10 points, but your skills are going to be negated to a point where it's going to level the playing field. So, for example, if you're going against a player in the 90s or the 80s, let's say, for example, right? And you're a greater athlete, you're faster, you're quicker, you could jump higher than this person. But the other player's allowed to use physicality against you. That's going to neutralize some of your athleticism advantage over them because they're allowed to push you and manipulate you with their hands, their forearms, things of that nature. That's going to level the playing field somewhat for you. So when people say, oh, Michael Jordan was being guarded by Jeff Hornacek, or Michael Jordan was being guarded by John Starks, or Gerald Wilkins, or this guy, that guy, and they're trying to make it seem like Michael Jordan wasn't being guarded by anybody. These guys are no-name players, right? What they're failing to mention or realize is the effort that these guys gave and the fact that they were allowed to use physicality against Michael Jordan, which helped to neutralize some of his athletic advantages over a Hornacek, over a John Starks, over a Gerald Wilkins, or some of these other guys. Even a Joe Dumars was not an athletic freak, but he was able to be effective defensively against Michael Jordan because of the physicality and because of his overall skills and defensive effort that he gave. The effort is the difference here. with these guys that Michael Jordan was dealing with. He was dealing with effort, guys that were giving effort, that were allowed to be physical with him. So I challenge Kevin Durant in an era where they're allowed to be physical with him, push him, hand check him, forearm him, elbow him, all of these things. His skills would be negated to a degree. So right there, Kevin Durant, you can see clearly, is not going to be the great scorer in some of these other eras. Is going to negate some of his scoring ability because of his frail body, his long, lanky legs, those long, lanky arms that people always talk about and celebrate. That's not going to get it done in the 80s and 90s. He's not going to be able to dribble the ball off the court against those guys. Imagine him trying to dribble the ball against Muggsy Bogues. Or like I said, imagine him trying to dribble the ball up the court against Scottie Pippen. It would not happen. All these skills that they say he has, Scottie Pippen would be ripping him left and right more often than not. Yeah, are there going to be times where Kevin Durant's going to break Scottie Pippen's ankles, cross him up, pull up on him? Absolutely. Great offense will always beat great defense. But it's the consistent effort that Scottie Pippen will hound somebody with that Kevin Durant don't know about. He don't know about that kind of hounding and pressure in this era. Guys ain't giving it like that. So I challenge Kendrick Perkins to break it down. How is Kevin Durant a greater scorer than Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or even Jerry West for example, or for that matter? Because once again, these guys were able to get it done where it mattered most more often than not. When I think about Kevin Durant, it's his mindset that holds him back. He don't have the scorer's mentality of the elite scorers, of the guys that are going to go out there and no matter what, they're going to give it. They're going to go out there and put them shots up. No matter what. Kevin Durant's out there, his career high is what, 55 points? That's unimpressive. And one of the reasons why his career high is only 55 points is because of his lack of mindset. He ain't going out there with that mindset of a Kobe Bryant, with that mindset of a Jerry West, with that mindset of a Michael Jordan. He don't even have the mindset of an Allen Iverson to be relentless on the offensive end. By all means. That's not Kevin Durant, man. Kevin Durant has a soft mind. He don't have that mentality like that killer instinct. He don't have it, Kevin Durant. He had the killer instinct when he was his front runner on a super team in Miami. I mean, in Golden State. Then he was a front runner. Then he was out there doing it. But he wasn't like that when he was on OKC, where it was a kill mentality when you were up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. Where was all those skills and scoring then, Kendrick Perkins, in Game 7? Where was he? That wouldn't be Michael Jordan. And like I said, Kevin Durant is one of the great scorers in NBA's history, guys. Like I said, if you told me he was a top 5, top 10 scorer in NBA's history, I can agree with that. We could debate that. But to me, I would not put him as a top 3 scorer in NBA's history. I just can't do it. Because once again, Kevin Durant is able to do what he does in this weak era, guys. Remember that, in this weak, soft era. We can't just say this era is weak and soft as it relates to LeBron James. We have to keep that same energy for everyone. All these guys that are playing in this weak era, they all must be subject to that criticism, to that scrutiny, to that standard. This is a weak era, man. So all these guys have to take that. No matter how great they are, they're playing in the weakest, softest era in NBA's history, man. And Kevin Durant don't have the mentality of the elite great scorers in NBA's history, man. Does he have the mentality of a Wilt Chamberlain? Does he have the mentality of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? A go-to move that he could use in the clutch when it matters most, like a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant. And it didn't matter what kind of defense they went against. The physical defense, it didn't bother them. It didn't matter. Zones, traps, full court presses, double teams, triple teams. These guys were going to be relentless. They were going to keep attacking, keep giving that effort. So I don't understand how Kendrick Perkins can make an argument for Kevin Durant over Michael Jordan as a greater scorer. He's clearly not a greater scorer than Michael Jordan. He's clearly not. Can Kevin Durant shoot a 3-point shot better than Michael Jordan? Yeah, maybe percentage-wise. Maybe on paper. But I'm telling you guys right now, if I needed one last second shot from 3, if you only had a couple seconds left, if I need one shot, I'm taking Michael Jordan over Kevin Durant, easy. I'll take Kobe Bryant over Kevin Durant, easy. I'll take Jerry West over Kevin Durant, guys. I'm just telling you the facts, man. Give me Jerry West, because once again, we're talking about clutch play. Those guys are more clutch performers to me than a Kevin Durant. Yeah, Kevin Durant was real clutch on Golden State when everything was going great. But where was he in OKC? Where has he been on Brooklyn? Where has he been in Phoenix? Where's all that clutch? Where's all that scoring, all those skills, Kendrick Perkins? The man's out there getting swept. Never averaged 40 for a playoff series. Michael Jordan averaged 40 in a playoff series like 4 or 5 times, different occasions. Kevin Durant never sniffed that. Never sniffed it. Michael Jordan has 10 scoring titles, man. 10. Literally 10 straight, essentially. The man has the highest career scoring average in the regular season and the postseason. How the hell could you make an argument for Kevin Durant being greater than that man? There's no argument for it. Once again, if Kendrick Perkins would have said, Kevin Durant's a top 3 scorer of NBA's history, in my opinion, or a top 5 scorer, he's one of the great scorers, I got to argue with you. I got nothing to say, man. No doubt. But when you put the word the greatest, that's where you get exposed. And when you try to explain it, you talked about nonsense, and then he talked about this word efficiency. And I want to talk about this word efficiency real quick, guys, briefly here. Every time I hear someone talk about Kevin Durant, they always bring up this word efficient. Oh, Kevin Durant, the most efficient scorer in NBA. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? What does that mean? Because I think people think efficient means that you shoot a good percentage, so you can score a certain amount of points on a good percentage. That makes you efficient. That's not all that makes you efficient. Once again, scoring when it matters most, under pressure, right? Does Kevin Durant, is he efficient under pressure? No, he's not. And also, they don't ever mention Kevin Durant and the turnover machine that he is. This man is a turnover machine. He's got way more turnovers than Michael Jordan, guys, way more. Even though his usage is nowhere near Michael Jordan's, even though he never faced the kind of defenses that Michael Jordan faced in his career, the type of physical defenses, the type of double and triple teams, the type of players, the mindset, the era, nowhere near this stuff. But Kevin Durant's a turnover machine. Man, where's that? That goes to your efficiency. He's not that efficient. The dude's a turnover machine. Always turn the ball over, even though he don't have the ball in his hands all the damn time like that. That's Kevin Durant. But here's Kendrick Perkins. Oh, Kevin Durant, the most efficient scorer of all time. Get out of here with this stuff, man. Stop it. Why? Because Kevin Durant picks and chooses when to shoot the ball. He protects his field goal percentage. That's what it looks like to me, Kevin Durant. That's why he don't have that mentality to go out there and score at all costs. Just go out there and do it. These other guys will run through a wall. Not Kevin Durant. He lollygags out there. So there's no way you can argue Kevin Durant's a greater scorer than Michael Jordan. I don't think you can argue Kevin Durant's a greater scorer than Kobe Bryant. We're talking about finishing at the rim. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are greater finishers at the rim, above or below. All right? Above or under it. Give me Michael Jordan easily, man. I mean, listen, I don't even want to make an argument for a bunch of these guys, but I can make an argument for a bunch of other guys over Kevin Durant as greater scorers, man. But to say the greatest scorer of all time, I think we all can agree and admit that Michael Jordan is clearly the greatest scorer of all time. You don't have to agree that Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time or any of those things. But I think as far as scoring the basketball goes, in NBA's history, I don't think there's an argument for, nowhere near an argument for anyone over Michael Jordan. How can anyone be considered a greater scorer than the guy who has the highest scoring average of all time in the postseason and the regular season, the most scoring titles of all time, the man who averaged 30-plus points a game on 50% shooting multiple times in his career? That guy's not the greatest scorer of all time? How is it possible? Also, a guy that can score under any condition. Kevin Durant has proven that he can't score under any condition. Under physical defenses, he struggles. Michael Jordan didn't struggle against physical defenses. It didn't matter if it was the bad boy Pistons, if it was the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, the Indiana Pacers. It didn't matter what defense he faced. The Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks. Michael Jordan was going to put in a show. He was going to go out there and score regardless. It didn't matter if his team might have lost the series. But Michael Jordan averaged 45-plus points a game. He was scoring the ball because he could score. Kevin Durant's been many times that Kevin Durant didn't show up. He didn't score, and his team lost. Once again, where's all the scoring since he's been on Phoenix? He's been swept out of the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Where's the scoring prowess? I don't want to hear about this efficiency nonsense. That's a word that they use, man, to pump these guys. Oh, he's more efficient. Stop it. They use that to discredit, to take away from Kobe Bryant. Oh, Kobe Bryant was shooting 44%, 45%. He's not efficient. What? Kobe Bryant was going against actual defense, actual physical defenses, guys who gave effort on the defensive end. Kobe Bryant could score when it mattered most. There were no excuses. And the one thing that we must also understand here, that they never talk about, Kendrick Perkins. Kevin Durant's a great scorer, man, right? In this era. He's an all-time great scorer. He's an all-time great scorer, man. You could argue he's a great scorer of his era. You could argue that. And he's one of the great scorers in NBA's history, man. Like I said, top 5, top 10. But when I'm talking about Michael Jordan, and I'm talking about Kobe Bryant, and I'm talking about Wilt Chamberlain, I'm talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I'm talking about Jerry West, and we're talking about some of the greatest scorers in NBA's history. Those guys I mentioned. I'm not saying those are the 5 greatest scorers in NBA's history, but I'm naming out great scorers. that were also great two-way players. Kevin Durant's never been mistaken as a great defensive player, even though some of these guys will try to tell you, oh, Kevin Durant's a great defender. Never. Kevin Durant was never great on defense. He may have been solid. He may have been good when he was on Golden State for a couple of years. He gave some effort. Because why? He can take a little backseat on the offensive end. Those guys that I mentioned are all great scorers. You can argue those are the top 5 scorers of all time. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Will Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jerry West. You can argue that. You can also argue they're the greatest two-way players in the history of the game. You can argue that with those guys. They got it done on both sides. So the effort that they gave on the offensive end to score those points, to average those points, to get the scoring ties, whatever the case may be, they did that while also playing elite-level defense. Will Chamberlain's one of the greatest defenders in the history of the game. They didn't have to keep a single stat on the blocks and steals. You know what this guy was doing. You see what he was doing. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the greatest defenders at his position, one of the great two-way players in the history of the game. Michael Jordan, probably the greatest two-way player, in my opinion, the greatest two-way player in the history of the game. Kobe Bryant, one of the great two-way players. Jerry West, one of the great two-way players. All of these guys are potent offensive threats, could score when it mattered most at a high level against multiple kinds of defenses, against double teams, against physicality. It didn't matter. They were going to get it done while playing defense. Kevin Durant's a great scorer, but he ain't nowhere near the level defender of those guys I just mentioned. He's not, and he hasn't been as consistent as those guys were for their careers. It wasn't like those guys were great for a couple of years here and there. They were great for years, a decade or more, on both sides of the ball, giving that effort, leading their teams. Kevin Durant ain't leading nobody nowhere. He don't have the mentality of the all-time great scorers. He don't have that mentality like that of the elite level scorers. Think about Kevin Durant's never scored 60 points in a game, guys. Not one 60-point game. Kobe Bryant's had multiple. James Harden, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. All these other guys have scored 60 points in this week era. Not Kevin Durant. 55 points is highest. George Mikan scored more points in a single game. I've talked about that before. George Mikan, who no one talks about, he scored more points in the game before than Kevin Durant did. But Kendrick Perkins says he's the greatest scorer of all time. Not even close, Kendrick Perkins. He's one of the greatest scorers, not the greatest. One of the greatest. And those are the facts. Those guys I mentioned it on both sides. Kevin Durant, he's an offensive guy and still ain't better than those guys. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you on the next one.